a New York Times best-selling author and screenwriter joining us. She is the author of a new novel, The Great Mann, it's called, and it's set in Los Angeles. How about it for Los Angeles? All of our friends in Southern California. This is her first historical fiction novel, and it is set in a part of LA that doesn't really exist anymore, but was a vibrant, vital place in which some of the wealthiest Black Americans were living. They came from show business, they came from many different backgrounds. And this is the backdrop for her latest. So please welcome the author of The Great Mann, Kyra Davis Lurie. And welcome. Now, I want to do something with you now. We're going to start. I told Kim I'd ask you. Kim insisted that your name is said Kyra, not Kyra.
Well, it's Kyra. Sorry, Kyra.
It's Kyra. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But Kim and I fight about things all the time. Kim's always spoiling for a battle, you know. And so this was her latest. And I said, I know Kyra, and I know how she says her name. That was not it. Very seldom can I prevail in an argument with Kim. So welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, congratulations on your success and all of your successes. I mean, you're a New York Times best-selling author, and your latest, The Great Mann, is your first historical novel. I was mentioning in introducing you that it takes place against this part of Los Angeles that was a place where sort of the elite of Black America lived. The successful, wealthy Black Americans were a part of this part of LA that doesn't really exist anymore that way. Can you speak to sort of that scene in which you sort of set your action?
Yeah, so West Adam Heights was Los Angeles's Beverly Hills before we had the Beverly Hills. So all the LA aristocracy lived there. And then in 1929, the stock market crashed, and the old money people all of a sudden were in trouble, and they were having a hard time maintaining their mansion. So they were looking to sell, but there weren't that many people who could buy. And the few people who could were the newly wealthy African Americans. So they bought up these homes, these mansions, and there were the owner of the biggest Black-owned insurance company in the country, hoteliers, oil moguls, and the Hollywood Black elite like Hattie McDaniel and Ethel Waters. And Hattie would throw these like extravagant parties where she would have Clark Gable, Bing Crosby, Lena Horne, Duke Ellington's her entertainment, and it was a very Gatsby-esque scene. And while all this going on, however, there were racial covenants on those homes that said the only Black people who were allowed to live there had to be servants to white people. So you have all this wealth, and then you have these people also fighting to keep from homelessness. I mean, they're in Minx, they're fighting to keep from homelessness, right?
So just stop right there. Those covenants then, with every purchase, despite the fact that these people who you described, show business figures, etc., have these homes, I mean, big homes associated with great wealth. You're saying that within the real estate agreements, there were covenants that said what? They had to be servants to white people?
Yeah, so they were attached to the deeds. The people who were selling knew that, but they also were relatively desperate to leave, right? So they're like, okay, we're just going to overlook that. The neighbors were going to have to deal with it. The neighbors didn't want to deal with it. So the covenants in LA were really, really intense. Again, Black people can't live there because unless they're servants. They frequently also forbid Asians. They sometimes forbid Jews. It was like, I mean, Lauren Miller, who was the lawyer who represented everybody in Sugar Hill, he said, look, the racial covenants in LA, you basically have to be 5'10" and a half, blue-eyed, Aryan, and like be obsessed with Orphan Annie. I mean, to be able to live anywhere, right? It's like, so it was really, there was this undercurrent of racism in LA, obviously, not even undercurrent, there was straight up racism in LA. And yet LA is where these African American people came and were able to build enough wealth because of the opportunities here to buy a mansion,
Yeah,
right?
they flourished. They flourished in L.A. Right. I mean, so in that, against that backdrop, in that community, you set your novel. So
Yeah.
our time is limited. So but I really think that was an important thing that you were just talking about, and you gave us a texture for not only this moment in time, but for that place. So what happens, and it's fascinating that you were intrigued with this moment in time for that to be a setting. What happens in the novel? We follow again. They're real life characters and also a real life setting, and then a narrative that you build out.
Yeah, so I take all a lot of the real residents within that neighborhood and put them in this book. I use, it is a Black reimagining of The Great Gatsby. So it's because of those parties, I thought it was very Gatsby-esque. You have to take the bones of that very familiar story in order to elevate this unfamiliar part of Black history. And so in mine, which is set in 1945, you have Charlie Trammell. He has just come home from World War II. He came to Virginia, where was his home, but Black soldiers weren't welcome there. So he came out to join his cousin in Los Angeles, and that's where he is introduced to this, for him, fantastical world of Black wealth and a very different kind of Black struggle than what he was used to in the Jim Crow South. And of course, I do have a Gatsby-esque character, James Mann. That's why it's called The Great Mann. And he is seems to be even wealthier than the wealthiest, right? And he's throwing events that makes Hattie green with envy. And so people are kind of curious about how he got that wealth, and there's some feel like a little bit shady about him. There's a lot of conflict within the Black community between the Black business elite and the Black Hollywood elite. They didn't get along, and then you bring in this third character that nobody trusts, and you have all these sort of community dynamics. It's an interesting time to be promoting a book set in Los Angeles. But I will say that what we did in LA with these covenants and with this racial struggle is indicative of our history and our current moment. We, as a city, constantly push through our crises, even the ones of our own making, the very things that the challenges, from whether they're external or internal, that hold us back are often offset by the strength of the individuals that also define it, like these Black residents. And I was thinking about how when there was a court case, and when Hattie went to court to keep from being evicted from a home that she bought in cash, she walked into that courtroom in a mink, followed by over 200 of her starstruck fans. And that's LA. Just like as we wait for whatever is being brought to us by Trump, the Marines coming supposedly to keep protesters in line, you have protesters line dancing to mariachi bands, right? There is a style and joie de vivre that we bring to our resistance. It was true in 1945, it's true now. And we have to hold on to that, and we have to push through. And these are indicative of people who push through an LA crisis.
Wow, that's such a great way to bring it home to what's happening now. Look, it must really work as a novel, and I'm just getting into it, and I really wish you the very best with it. It is on Esquire's choice as best book of the summer,
Yeah.
and Bloomberg's top 10 best novels of the summer. So what a summer you can have. We had it up here. You can order it. KyraDavisLurie.com. For those who are listening, Kyra is Kyra. Kyra Davis Lurie is Lurie. KyraDavisLurie.com. And I know you've got a signing for our Southern California pals. You are doing a signing, I think, in Pasadena tonight.
Yeah,
Is it?
tonight.
Yeah.
Come on down to Romans at 7 o'clock. If you can't get to Romans in Pasadena, come tomorrow at Diesel, a bookstore in Santa Monica, and that's at 6:30, or Chevalier's. That's the 19th. So I hope to see everybody there at one of those.
Yeah, get a book, get it signed. Kyra, again, you can, all the information, if you missed any of that, is at KyraDavisLurie.com. I congratulate you. I celebrate you. I hope and think that maybe there are movies around this story probably being talked about because it seems so perfect. So I hope that happens for you too. And I look forward to the next time. Thanks, Kyra.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Kyra Davis Lurie, everybody. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.